Apple is expected to hold an event pretty soon. What can we expect? Let's talk about it. Let's get something out of the way right now. Apple has not officially announced it will be holding a spring event this year. However, a report from the incredibly reliable Mark Gurman from Bloomberg says March 8th could be the day for an Apple event. In the past 7 years, Apple has held an event in March 4 times. Last year, Apple went with an April event. So that's 5 spring events in the past 7 years. Okay, so let's talk about what we could be getting. I'll be talking about products and services in an order I hope you find interesting. First up, we could be looking at a low-cost 5G iPhone according to Bloomberg. This would be an update to the iPhone SE. The second generation was released in 2020, with the original arriving in 2016. According to Gurman, the newest iPhone SE would get 5G, a new processor, and a new camera. On the outside, the design would be, quote, be about the same as the iPhone 8 era look as the current model. So let's talk about that processor, or more accurately, the system on a chip. The 2020 iPhone SE has 4G LTE and uses an Apple A13 system on a chip, or SoC. That means if we're looking at a new SoC, we're talking about either the A14 or the A15. If I had to guess, which I have to because I don't have any official info from Apple, I would say that the new iPhone SE would pack in the A15 SoC the same as the iPhone 13. Why is that? The past. The SE is usually an older body type to the iPhone along with the latest iPhone SoC. The first iPhone SE arrived in March 2016. It had the A9, the same SoC as the iPhone 6S, which showed up in September 2015. The iPhone SE second gen arrived in 2020 with the A13 Bionic chip. That would be the same as the 2019 iPhone, the iPhone 11. That being said, the Apple iPhone 12 uses an A14 with a 5G modem, so that's a possibility. Let's talk about the camera, which would be improved according to Gurman. The current gen iPhone SE has a single 12-megapixel camera on the back that can also shoot 4K video at up to 60 FPS. Apple called it the best single-camera system in an iPhone. The current gen iPhone SE uses the same design as the iPhone 8, which had only one rear camera. Maybe it's time to go to a dual-camera rear setup? That was available on the iPhone 8 Plus. The thing is, the SE line has been an exercise in recycling iPhone parts, amongst other things. The rear housing of an iPhone 8 would have to be redesigned to fit that pill-shaped camera array of the 8 Plus. It's not like you can slap together the back of an iPhone 8 Plus on an iPhone 8 front. That'd be silly. The iPhone X also came out in the same year as the iPhone 8. While similar in dimensions, the iPhone X doesn't exactly match the iPhone 8 physically. The X is a little taller and wider. You can't just put together the iPhone X back with the iPhone 8 front. It doesn't work. So if Apple does not go with a dual camera setup, what could make the best single camera system even better? The iPhone 13 may provide clues. With the 13, Apple added in something called sensor shift optical image stabilization. That was a feature introduced on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Those phones would physically stabilize the sensor instead of the heavier lens. This would translate into more steady shots. The second-gen SE has the more traditional lens-based OIS, so moving to sensor shift OIS could be an improvement. Also, both the A14 system on a chip and A15 could lead to better overall photography for a new iPhone SE. The A14 let the iPhone use what Apple calls deep fusion. The company says this feature, quote, uses advanced machine learning to do pixel-by-pixel processing of photos, optimizing for detail, texture, and color in every part of the photo. The iPhone 13 also brought along photographic styles. Apple sure loves naming stuff, huh? Anyway, photographic styles let you bring certain adjustments to your photos in a consistent way. Apple says styles lets you intelligently apply the right adjustments to different parts of the photo to ensure the important elements, like skin tones, are preserved. The company was very clear. These are not simple filters being applied. So those are a couple of ways Apple could stick with a single rear camera while improving that camera. Then there's potentially a new iPad or iPads in the wings. Bloomberg says that there will be a new version of the iPad Air with a faster processor and 5G. Right now, the current iPad Air has an A14 SoC. If that's going to be improved, you've got one or two options. Option one, the A15. That's the same SoC as the current gen iPad mini. Option 2, moving to the M line. I would think the M line will stay with the Pro model of the iPad for a little longer. Maybe it's time for the iPad Air to catch up with the iPad mini with that A15. There's no mention of any other big changes to the iPad Air. It also looks like we could be seeing iOS 15.4 at the event. Currently, this version is available as a beta, but it's not finished. 15.4 brings some pretty cool features, including the ability to unlock Face ID while wearing a mask, universal control. That's the feature that lets you share a keyboard and mouse between Apple products, as well as share data between devices a lot easier. And there's new emojis. What about new Macs? Well, Bloomberg says that new Macs could be showing up as early as March. The French site Consumac noticed that Apple had registered 3 new Macs with the Eurasian Economic Commission. One is labeled as a portable computer, but the other 2 were not detailed. When Apple registers with the Commission does not necessarily correspond to a release date. Apple has filed products several months in advance of their introduction. So if there were new Macs, what are potential candidates? Way back in August of 2021, there was a report that said a new Mac Mini was on its way. This new Mini would feature a more powerful SoC than the current Mac Mini. The new Mini could also see a redesign. I'm not sure how far it would deviate from Apple's familiar squircle shape, but maybe we could see colors like with the iMac line. There was also a mention of more ports on the new Mini. The original M1 Mini came out in late 2020, so maybe it's time for an update. I don't think we would see an updated Mac Pro or an iMac Pro at the event. Those heavier duty devices usually show up later in the year. If there was a portable Mac that could be updated, maybe it's the 13-inch MacBook Pro. It's kind of in a weird spot at this point. The other 2 MacBook Pros have that new design, no touch bar, and lots of ports. The new MacBook Pros also have the M1 Pro and the M1 Max as options. The 13-inch MacBook Pro has a touch bar, big bezels around the screen, and a whopping 2 Thunderbolt/USB 4 ports, and a headphone jack. Also, it's running on an M1. There's no other option for this size of MacBook Pro. All that being said, I'm not really sure why the 13-inch MacBook Pro would continue to exist while the 14-inch model does. Maybe it's there to say MacBook Pro starts at $1299. Yeah, but that's for the 13-inch one. We could also see news about the Apple Card. Did you know that the Apple Card is nearing 3 years old? Yep, it was introduced at the same event as Apple TV+. Back to the Card, right now it's available only in the US. This could be the right time for Apple to announce more countries can get the Card. Then there's the stuff we probably won't see. Apple's augmented reality glasses have been in the news for years at this point. Lots of different reports have stated that the device is running into development issues that could push them off until 2023. As an aside, I can't wait to see what those things are like. I don't think Apple has a lot of chances to get something like AR glasses off the ground. So whatever its first version is, it's gonna be something. Also, there's Apple's huge push for privacy. If you think of that other big company in the metaverse, Apple has a very diametrically opposed position to it. So Apple's mixed reality could be very interesting. Are we going to see the Apple Car? Doubt it. And the Apple Watch was just updated in October of 2021, so that probably won't see any kind of major revision, if anything at all. What do you want to see out of Apple this spring? Let us know. I'm Zach Ty, and I'll see you online.